Welcome to the podcast, Emboldened with Jessica. I'm Jessica, a licensed mental health therapist. This podcast is for you if you're interested in personal growth and relatable community conversations. Today, we will be discussing eras. And I'm just going to go ahead and give a disclaimer that sometimes I say era, sometimes I try to follow the rules and say era. I think any way it could be said.
Yes, tomato.
All right, well, we're going to get into it.
As we get into it, let's kick things off. I have a question for you. What era did you last leave, and what era are you entering or want to be in?
Good question. I last left the era of being a homebody, being in the house, a little sloth-like, resting. I feel like I was really healing from all that stuff. I was so tired, and I just like to be alone a lot. Right now, I feel like I'm entering a season of alignment where it feels like some of the things I've worked towards or some of the things I've invested in are coming into fruition. And so there's just been so many things where I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just aligning in such a beautiful way. So that's the season I'm in, or era.
Yes, your alignment era.
Mm-hmm. And then what era are you in?
I am in the era of, I'm not sure I'm there yet. I guess the era that I want to go to is caring less about, honestly, just caring less.
Okay.
Just doing me more. And if I have to do it alone, do it. I guess I'm in the just do it era.
Ooh, yes. Yeah. And only the things that serve you and that bring you happiness and joy. As we have many stages in life, there are many eras that people inhabit. So some of those eras can look like a softness era. We've talked about the villain era. Some folks like to use the language of a girl boss. Some people say that that's really problematic because why is not a lady boss, woman boss? But you know.
Yeah.
Some people might have a whole era, a free love era. I just shared how I left more of a solitude era, a healing from trauma or in abusive relationships.
I was watching a reality show and, a reality competition show. Mm. So, there are just parts and people play parts in those shows, whether it's stereotypical or not, or a contestant has an arc. And every time it was like time for the next competition, this one person was like, okay, I'm in my serenity era. I'm in my congeniality era now, after they were like the biggest troublemaker. They were just in their villain era, like causing so much drama. They're like, you know what, guys, I'm going to be in my serenity era now. So it's fun to make those little announcements when it comes to eras.
And then for some people, maybe they are in a friend group era where they spend a lot of time with their peers. If you're in college or you're just in a stage of life where you have the ability to see your friends really regularly.
Please elaborate on that. Even you mentioned it, how you were like, I'm in this season of my life. Mentioning, I guess, comparing eras to seasons, because when you are, for most people, when you're in college or high school, everything is just like group thinking, big group think. If one person wants to do it, then the whole group wants to do it. Mm-hmm. Is that an era, or is that just a season of your life?
Yeah, that's a good question. When you mentioned that person that was on that reality show and how the era shifts so quickly, I feel like a season maybe takes a little bit longer. So a season, to me, that almost feels like not just like a fall, winter, spring situation, but a season could be a while. Y'all know I celebrate my birthday for a season because a month just wasn't cutting it. I feel like an era might be a little bit more short term, but what are your thoughts about it?
I almost feel like it's just a semantics thing. Mm-hmm. Like back in the day, it was season. This is the season of my life. And now it's like, this is the era of my life. Mm-hmm. But then I also think about growing up. It's like when you're in your spring era, you're a kid. And I'm in the winter of my life. Like
Ooh,
when people say
so
that,
sad. So
is that a season? Like you're about to round the bend? So I'm on the same page as you, but I am very curious about what others think.
Yeah, absolutely. As a society and even a generation, there seems to be periods where we are collectively gravitating towards an idea or an era. And so I would say, I don't know, like maybe 2 years ago, people talked a lot about their villain era and their villain origin story. Right now, I'm hearing a lot about softness eras, especially among people of color, like Black women, especially, and really enjoying that.
Where do you think that comes from? The
Mm,
the, the softness era.
yeah, I think that softness era is really indicative of all of the stuff that, especially, I'm going to talk about Black women here, because when I think about the softness era, that's kind of who I hear talking about it the most, and that's a group of people I think about are women of color. And so I just think about all that has been maybe entrenched in us about working hard, supporting the family, supporting the community, giving back to everyone, like hustle, 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 grind, grind, grind. And then us becoming more socially, emotionally aware of how that has an impact on us mentally
Mm-hmm.
and an impact on our physical health, and realizing that that doesn't have to be our portion, that we can sink into more luxury, more softness, more ease. So I really just think it's coming from us being able to have community with more women and hearing about what's going on with them and learning together. But, that's just what I think.
Yeah, and it's also a big piece of whether it's Black women, women in general, or people. To me, there's this issue of it goes back to how people say like check on the strong friend,
Mm-hmm.
because women and Black women specifically have just been almost conditioned to just keep going, keep hustling.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna get your pot of gold at the very end, but you will have to endure. You will have to be resilient, and there's just gonna be so much stuff coming your way, and you just have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, that will, if it doesn't break you, it's just gonna make you hard.
Mm-hmm.
So why can't I be soft?
Yes.
Can I ask for help? Can
Oh,
you offer me
yes.
help? Can I be a demure little flower and you
Yes.
like check in and make sure I'm
Oh,
okay?
yes. Well, and that brings up 2 points to me. So, A, this you're going to endure and your reward will come at the end. The end is usually in the afterlife.
Yeah, it's
You
death.
I ain't trying to wait that long, okay? And then the other thing, when you talk about can I be demure, can I be a soft flower? One of the things that I've noticed in working with people over their different eras, when they've been in a season where they've been in an abusive relationship, when they start dating healthier partners, they're allowed to now be a very soft version of themselves that they didn't even know existed.
Mm.
Like they're like, I was never allowed to be soft before because my family expected so much, or things were so dangerous or abusive for me that I didn't even have the ability to be soft because it wasn't safe. And so maybe we're also seeing more of women finding really great community, really great partners, people in general, where now they're allowed to be a
Yes,
demure
that
flower.
allowance and making space for you to just be. And if you
Yeah,
happen to be soft, and I put air quotes around that, if you happen to be soft, like that's what it is.
yeah. I'm thinking about the beta males, okay? They're a little soft. They're a little
Are they?
soft. Yes,
Huh?
but it's a good thing, you know?
Well, I guess it adds to being a well-rounded, fully realized human.
Mm,
We aren't just one thing. You can't just, or you
mm,
shouldn't just be alpha. You shouldn't just be beta. That should be all of
mm-hmm.
you, and you
Oh,
should be able to
yes.
have all those parts and
Yeah.
express all those parts.
Yeah, that is nice.
Us having this conversation and how you brought up how like with Black women and even a woman in an abusive relationship, to like bring it to a not as serious level, I'm thinking about birth order.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Older children have a certain thing they have to do.
Yeah.
Middle children take on something, and then you bring in gender.
Yeah.
It's like the oldest daughter has this role to play.
Yes.
They're definitely always in their oldest kid era.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, can I take a break? Can I be the youngest kid?
And I mean, we've seen the memes about how oldest siblings, or especially girls, are entitled to, settlement checks, okay? Because they've been through some things. But yeah, then you think about the youngest, and the youngest generally, I mean, every family structure is different,
Mm-hmm.
but a youngest might have benefited from the support of their siblings and the softness of their siblings, and then the softness from their parents, because their parents were more established in their parenting roles, maybe more financially secure.
Or they just didn't care.
Yeah, or they're tired. Or they're tired. And so,
like, I've done this before. Let's like an experiment. Let's see what happens when we actually don't do anything. Mm-hmm. What decision will you make?
The oldest sibling had to raise the babies. And so then the youngest, they're just that they seem, I'm really into birth order in general, and it's almost like you can guess sometimes with some people. So I love a tangent. So, in talking about softness era, from a mental health perspective, we have what we call the stress response cycle. And a lot of times we'll feel like because we got through that stressor, that stress is no longer in our body and we're good to go. The way that it works doesn't necessarily work in that way. Thinking about allowing a lot more softness and ease, it's something that actually helps us to process past stressors or past trauma. One of the things I think is so important for everyone to experience, I think everyone should experience some softness in their life, and whatever that looks like for you, you would define that. But how do we invite more softness into our lives? And so when I think about that, some of the things that could be helpful would be asking for help and support when we need it. If we have the ability to hire help and support, if you can, like house cleaning, a mover. Ariele and I have a mutual friend who just has a lot on her plate. And I remember Ariele having a real conversation with her about, girl, hire a cleaner to come through.
Yeah, why not? Mm-hmm. It's just one of those things of what I like how you put inviting more softness into your life, aka just lessening the load that you have to carry around. I feel like these thoughts of feeling like you're less than a person because you can't handle everything that's being thrown at, like, no, that's not the way to go about that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And especially for each of us, there's different things we don't love, right? Mm-hmm. So like for me, I don't like mowing my grass. That's something that I hire someone to do. I've never mowed grass before a day in my life. I don't plan on it. Okay. So I like this, like hiring help and support if we can, not judging ourselves for needing that help and support. It, speaks to what Ariel's talking about. And for that friend who hired the cleaner, she loves it. Like a game changer. She can enjoy her home now. And she's not just sitting there thinking about all of the things in her house she's supposed to be doing, which we all experience, particularly folks that have ADHD. It can be really hard to get tasks done. And so the moment that we are trying to rest, we cannot rest because we're thinking about all of the things we haven't done. The other piece of inviting more softness into our life could look like pampering. So what are some pampering things we'd want to do for ourselves?
It almost is reframing self-care.
Yes.
Like people need to kind of re-look at self-care. It's opportunities for self-care moments to make you feel better.
Yes. Or if there is a parent that is, at your school that you really connect with and they've offered, hey, I'd be willing to watch your kids for you so you can go grocery shopping, not thinking that that's a bad thing to reach out to that person as a way to connect. So a lot of times I'll hear when I share a resource with someone, they'll say, oh, well, someone else needs that more than I do. And it's like, what is this? There's enough for everyone, right? And so allowing ourselves to receive that support and not kind of always assuming that there's not enough for us to be able to receive it, or that we're not deserving of it, or that there's going to be some type of judgment. It's generally us that's judging first. So yeah, I think just being aware of that And then also, you know me, I love relationships. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
my clients begin on me because I'm always talking about relationships, socially engaging, bonding. Yeah, that's the good
There's
stuff.
so many levels to it. I feel like a lot of people will only see a relationship as a romantic one, but with your friends, with family, those are all
Hmm.
relationships.
And are super important, and so that could be chosen family. And so being in relationship with people who are safe and allow us to be soft, I think that is critically important. So whether that is time at work, like on a lunch break, that's still your time, okay? And if it's not easeful for me to be around you, then I'm going to go find somewhere else to be during this break, right? So being really attentional about what you need, and then noticing how it feels to be with people who feel safe. I was talking to some friends today about how I enjoy their company because it doesn't feel laborious to be with them. I don't need to entertain them. I don't need to do small talk. If there's silence, it feels natural. It just feels easeful to be with them. And so
Mm-hmm.
noticing that, and then how do we spend more time with people that are like that? And then also noticing when it does not feel easeful to be around some people. And then how do we want to move? Do we want to limit our time around them? Just considerations.
Let's talk about other eras.
Okay, yes.
What
Okay.
what what do they like? I guess the definition of them. You mentioned what's a girl boss, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of what are like the pros and cons of being a girl boss.
Yeah, when I think of a girl boss, I really think of someone who is generally high achieving, right? Successful. I'm thinking more white collar jobs is usually what's assigned to a girl boss, but really someone who is part of that hustle grind culture, um, and usually working quite a bit.
Okay, what about people embracing their hoe era? Usually, I
Mm,
feel like it usually happens after a breakup.
right?
What do you surmise is your hoe era?
Yeah, I think that's like taking back that term, right? And just being free. Free to go out and hook up with whomever you want to hook up with. Wear what I want to wear that I feel sexy and hot in. I'm going to go where I want to go. And if I'm making out with this person in the club and then I turn to my left and there's someone else I want to make out with, who cares, right? Like, I'm going to do what feels good to me in this moment.
All right, I see something about a book girly era. What is
Oh,
that?
yeah. Kathleen, my sister, is right now in her book girly era, and she knows all the book talk things. Okay, I have been an avid reader since I could read. Okay, I am all into the book situation, but she has learned all kinds of things I did not even know were things. Like the way to not have your book return early when you rent a book on like through a library virtual app is to put it on airplane mode. I was like, because I was at the last chapter, okay, and I had 2 hours, and I was like, I don't think I can do it in 2 hours. I was like, all of these years, how did I not know this? But I think a book girly era is really just enjoying reading. Maybe you have a book group, or maybe you're in some kind of online forum where you're talking about it. It's giving me like the people who create fan fiction
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and share it, or maybe create also the art of the characters. It's giving me cute little rimmed glasses. It's giving cute hair buns, coffee, tea. It's giving coziness.
So I know we've missed several eras.
Mm-hmm.
Feel free to let us know some other eras that are out there in the world. Maybe an era that you're in, somebody that you know is in. Leave us a comment, also a review of the podcast. But tell us about the era that you are in. And after all this talk about books, I think we need to go to Jessica's Cozy Book Nook.
I love it here. Okay. So, for this cozy book nook, my recommendation is Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. I can't remember if I've talked about this on the podcast or not already, but there was a season of life where Ariel, you humbled me, Do you remember this? You told me that there are certain things you don't even ask me to do because you already know I'm going to say no. And then I started to think about it, and it honestly hurt my heart. Not the feedback, right? Because, like, I appreciate that my friends can speak truth to me, but it hurt my heart to know that my friend that I care so much about is not even asking me about things because I'm saying no all of the time. So I decided to read this book, Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes. Incredible. Okay, incredible. And so she talks about her life experiences and when she shifted into saying yes to everything that came her way in terms of opportunities and how it just blew up her life. Like it changed quite a bit for her in a really good, positive way. And so as a result, I entered a year of yes as a result of the book and my feedback from my friend. And that would probably be one of my best years I've ever had because there were just so many really cool new experiences that I had a chance to have. So highly recommend Year of Yes by Shonda Rhimes.
I'm not gonna lie, I really wish you would write a sequel and maybe not a year, but 6 months of no.
Oh,
like you
yeah.
need to also embrace that you have the option to say no.
Yeah, some people never say no.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a little different. You know that book actually, The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin? She kind of talks about people who say no to everything, people who, question everything, people who say yes to everything, and that's interesting too. So, I mean, everyone needs a little bit of balance. I needed more balance in that season to say yes. Are you enjoying the show? Subscribe and review to let us know what you think. And share this episode with a friend in your favorite podcast app. Thanks so much for listening to Emboldened with Jessica. If you want to keep up with us, follow Emboldened with Jessica on Instagram or Facebook. Until next time.